First thing this man does when he wakes up is poke holes in the desert with his dagger. Every hole he pokes, he has to feel it again with his feet. Suddenly the desert in front of him began to collapse, but the soldier was so excited that he called all his teammates. It turns out that this is the most primitive way to find a well in the desert. It's been 3 days now, they have not taken in a drop of water, and all their hopes of survival are pinned on the well in front of them. But when they removed the cover, they were dumbfounded. There wasn't a single drop of water in the well. Looking at the almost desperate expressions of his teammates, the captain picked up a brick and threw it into the well, but a dull thud from the bottom of the well made the soldiers disappointed once again. Trapped in the endless Sahara desert without water, they could only wait for death, so the captain remained undeterred. He sent David to the bottom of the well to take a closer look, but the bottom of the well was nothing but yellow sand. Just when David was desperate to climb up, he suddenly felt a damp sensation on the wall of the well. He felt along the wall and finally found a drop of water slowly dripping from one of the corners. David's eyes instantly glowed, and he excitedly looked towards his teammates to find a container for the water. His teammates dared not delay for a moment and took out the metal box they had with them. Knowing that water is hard to come by, David didn't dare to waste even a single drop. After picking up the box, he carefully poured the water drops he had collected into the box. Although the water source is not much, but it is directly related to the life and death of this 9-member team, the captain immediately ordered people to bring more containers. It wasn't until a few hours later that 2 lunchboxes full of water were finally picked up. David repeatedly urged his teammates to be careful. Now they could not afford to make a single mistake. With the hungry eyes of his teammates, the 2 lunchboxes of water were successfully delivered to the captain. Although the captain knew that everyone was already thirsty, but in order to ensure that everyone could drink water, the captain still strictly limited everyone to 3 sips. The soldiers, who hadn't had any water for days, were now like dry grass moisturized by the rain. The men said it was sweet, like a woman. Although there wasn't much water, it was enough to give the soldiers hope to live again. David stayed at the bottom of the well to collect water, but he never stole a drop of water. With the problem of water solved, the soldiers were soon refreshed, but it didn't last long. That day, the soldiers on guard duty suddenly noticed an enemy armored car coming towards them. They immediately went into action. After capturing 2 enemy prisoners, the captain started to get information about the enemy, but it's not easy. However, when he saw the enemy POWs whose mouths were already dry, the captain guessed that they were also struggling for water. This made the captain think of a brilliant idea. Speaks out information in order to lure the enemy. He deliberately poured water on the ground. Then, the captain slowly poured another cup. Then he came to the captive. The captain tempted him to tell the German military secrets. The captives confessed that they had more than 900 people, and they haven't had a sip of water for 5 or 6 days. To annihilate them all, the captain suddenly thought of a good idea. He decided to release the 2 enemy prisoners back. Let them put the information that there is enough water here. Report to their chief. If they don't want to die of thirst, just use weapons to replace water. Captain understands. Although the Germans far outnumbered them, enemy soldiers are already severely dehydrated. They simply don't have the ability to fight for a long time. As long as you occupy strong terrain in advance here, you can definitely wipe them out in one fell swoop. At this time, a soldier brings bad news. The only well was completely dry. Now they have no way out. Must act now. Soldiers planted a large number of mines near the camp. Snipers and machine gunners also found the best shooting positions. Everyone is on alert level 1. 9 members, all ready for battle. They stare ahead for the arrival of the enemy. Sure enough, the enemy still couldn't resist the temptation of water. They quickly launched a charge towards the camp. Little did they know they had entered a minefield. Enemies are sent to meet Jesus. With the sound of the explosion, the 2 sides immediately launched a fierce fight. The defenseless German army was caught off guard. With the team's crazy firepower output, the Germans suffered heavy casualties, although the enemy was successfully repelled. But unfortunately they also sacrificed a teammate. Just when everyone is immersed in sadness, German commanders come to negotiate with white flags. When he learned that the captain was a sergeant, suddenly showed a look of contempt. He doesn't think the sergeant captain is qualified to talk to him. He offered to negotiate with the supreme commander. The sergeant captain slowly turned his head and told him his superior is watching. The German commander pursed his lips, a little bit broken. He's even more convinced that there's plenty of water here. Sir doesn't know. The well was completely dry long before the battle, and all he saw, they are all illusions carefully arranged by the captain. In order to let the enemy slowly enter the trap, he said, "Man is taking a bath in the desert." Strangely, his hands did not touch the water. His purpose is to break the will of the enemy commander. There is a long-term lack of water in the desert. Many soldiers are dying. Even so, the German commander was still stubborn. He counts on his soldiers, far outnumbering the other. He threatened the sergeant captain to surrender as soon as possible. The captain was silent after hearing this. He knew that when the Germans failed to find water, they won't last long. The negotiations ended in failure. Soon this group of German troops made a comeback again. They launched an attack. German soldiers began to charge. Since they have not drank water for a long time, they are very weak. A large piece fell down before reaching the camp. The chief again ordered a flank attack. The soldiers rushed up immediately to get water. They rushed forward desperately through crowd tactics. The 9-man squad is quickly reduced to 5. The Germans suffered heavy casualties. Most of the soldiers are also powerless to fight. Seeing this, the chief can only continue to negotiate. A soldier whistles and walks past. He wants to avenge his teammates who died in battle. I haven't then waited for the other party to react. He drew out his dagger and stabbed the German officer to death. Then he shot and killed the entourage. Just as the soldiers were preparing to return to camp, unfortunately, it was hit by a German sniper. He met Jesus there. The group of German soldiers without a leader suddenly became a mess. They started bombing the camp. 2 team members were unfortunately hit by shells on the spot. There are only 2 people left in the whole team. They hid high up and loaded their magazines, ready to fight the Germans to the end. Soon, the German army launched a general offensive. Seeing this, the 2 immediately stood up to face each other. Unexpectedly, all the German troops raised their guns and surrendered. The soldiers are too thirsty to fight anymore. They staggered straight to the well. Surprisingly, the dry well is now full of water. The captain understands that the bombing just now accidentally opened up the underground undercurrent. While these soldiers were drinking water, the duo quickly seized their weapons. In the end, this 9-man team wiped out more than 700 German troops.